The gravy boat crashed to the floor, dark brown sauce splattering across my mother's pristine white tiles like an abstract painting of my humiliation. I had been reaching for the mashed potatoes when my sister Veronica decided to make her grand pronouncement. "I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room," she said, her voice cutting through the Christmas dinner chatter like a serrated knife. "Emma is too poor to be part of this family anymore." The words hung in the air, mixing with the scent of rosemary and thyme. My hand froze midway to the potatoes. Around the table, 16 members of the Williams family turned to stare at me. Some with pity, some with amusement, most with that particular brand of secondhand embarrassment that made my skin crawl. "Veronica," my mother's voice held a note of scandal, but not denial. "What?" Someone had to say it. Veronica adjusted her new diamond tennis bracelet, a gift from her investment banker husband, Marcus. "Look at her, driving that ancient Honda, living in that cramped apartment downtown, still shopping at discount stores. It's embarrassing." My cousin Diana snickered from across the table. "Remember when she brought wine from the grocery store to Thanksgiving?" "The horror," I muttered, but my voice was drowned out by the laughter that rippled through the room. "I'm just saying," Veronica continued, clearly warming to her theme. "Maybe it would be better for everyone if Emma started spending holidays elsewhere. Somewhere more appropriate to her circumstances." My father cleared his throat, but said nothing. My mother fidgeted with her napkin. Not one person at that table defended me. Not one. I looked down at my plate. At the Christmas dinner I'd contributed $200 toward. Money I'd saved by skipping lunches for 2 weeks. The same dinner where Veronica had contributed nothing but a store-bought pie and her sparkling personality. "You know what? You're absolutely right," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "I clearly don't belong here." I started to stand, ready to grab my coat and leave, when my phone buzzed on the table. The caller ID made me pause. Richard Thornton, private banking. Richard never called during holidays. Never called, period, unless it was important. "I need to take this," I said. "Of course you do." Veronica rolled her eyes. Probably her landlord calling about late rent. I almost ignored it. Almost let it go to voicemail. But something, call it instinct or maybe just spite, made me answer. "Emma? Richard Thornton here. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt your Christmas dinner, but the wire transfer just cleared. $2.3 million as expected. Shall we proceed with purchasing the mortgage on the Riverside Drive property?" Time stopped. I was acutely aware of every sound in that dining room. The grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Someone's fork scraping against china. Veronica's breathing, suddenly sharp and shallow. "Ms. Williams? Are you there?" "Yes," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the silent table. "Yes, proceed with purchasing my parents' mortgage." The silence that followed was absolute. "Excellent. The papers will be ready for signature on the 27th. Merry Christmas, Ms. Williams." "Merry Christmas, Richard." I set the phone down carefully, precisely, in the exact spot where it had been. Then I looked up at my family. My poverty-stricken family who had no idea that their black sheep had been building a tech startup for the past 5 years. Who didn't know about the acquisition offer I'd accepted 6 months ago. Who never asked what I did for work beyond accepting my vague computer stuff explanation. "I'm sorry," my mother stammered. "Did he say 2.3 million? My father's voice cracked. "What mortgage?" Veronica demanded, her face flushed red. "What is he talking about?" I stood slowly, smoothing down my discount store dress. The same dress Veronica had mocked when I arrived. "The mortgage on this house. The one you've been struggling to pay for the past 3 years. The one Dad didn't tell anyone about because he was too proud." My father's face went white. "How did you?" "No. The same way I knew about Mom's medical bills. And Veronica's husband's gambling debts. And Diana's student loans." I picked up my purse, a knockoff designer bag that had caused so much amusement earlier. "I pay attention. I listen. I help when I can. Quietly. Without making announcements at Christmas dinner. Emma, sweetheart." My mother reached for me, but I stepped back. "No." Veronica was right. "I don't belong here." I looked directly at my sister, whose mouth was opening and closing like a goldfish. "But not because I'm too poor. Because I'm tired of being treated like a failure by people who don't even know me." "You can't buy our house," Veronica shrieked, finding her voice. That's completely legal. Ask Marcus. He's in finance, right? He'll explain how mortgage acquisition works." I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and don't worry. I'm not going to evict you. Consider it my Christmas gift. The mortgage payments you've been killing yourselves to make? They're gone. Paid in full. You're welcome. Emma, wait. My mother's voice broke. We didn't mean, we never thought. That's the problem, I said quietly. You never thought about me at all. You saw what you wanted to see. The poor sister. The family disappointment. The one who couldn't afford to play in your league. I looked around the room one last time. At the faces that had laughed at me moments ago. At the family who had made me feel small for years, who measured worth in designer labels and car models and zip codes. Merry Christmas, I said. Enjoy your dinner. And your mortgage-free home. I walked out into the cold December night, snow beginning to fall softly on my shoulders. Behind me, I could hear the explosion of voices, questions, accusations, demands for explanation. My phone started buzzing immediately. Veronica. Then my mother. Then numbers I didn't recognize. I silenced it and walked to my ancient Honda. The car that had faithfully carried me to countless investor meetings, coding boot camps, and 16-hour startup days. The car that had heard me practice pitches and cry over rejections and scream with joy when the acquisition offer came through. As I drove away, I thought about the irony of it all. For years, I'd worked quietly, building something meaningful while my family focused on appearances. I'd lived modestly, reinvesting everything into my company while they spent beyond their means trying to impress each other. And when I finally had the means to help them, really help them, they were too busy mocking my poverty to notice I'd already pulled them out of theirs. My phone lit up with a text from Diana. Emma, WTF just happened, are you really rich? Then another from an unknown number. This is Marcus. We need to discuss the mortgage situation immediately. And another from Veronica. You can't just leave. This is insane. Come back right now. I turned off my phone entirely and headed for my cramped downtown apartment. The one Veronica found so embarrassing. The one where I'd written the code that became the foundation of a company worth millions. The one where I'd learned that real wealth wasn't about what you displayed at Christmas dinner. It was about knowing your worth when everyone else insisted you had none. 3 days later, I sat in Richard Thornton's office, signing the papers that would transfer my parents' mortgage to my name. If I may say so, Richard ventured, adjusting his glasses, this is quite generous. Paying off a mortgage for family members who... He trailed off diplomatically. Who announced I was too poor to be family. I smiled. Yes, well, consider it my way of saying goodbye. Goodbye. I'm moving to San Francisco. The company that acquired mine wants me to head their new AI division. I signed the last page with a flourish. Clean slate. New city. New life. And your family? We'll have a paid-off house and one less poor relative to worry about. Richard gathered the papers, then paused. Ms. Williams, in my experience, money reveals character. It doesn't create it. What makes you say that? Because in 20 years of private banking, I've seen many people come into sudden wealth. Most use it for revenge or to prove points. He smiled. You used yours to quietly pay off medical bills and mortgages for people who mocked you. That says more about your character, and theirs, than any Christmas dinner conversation. I left his office and drove through the city one last time. Past the startup incubator, where I'd spent countless nights. Past the coffee shop where I'd had my first investor meeting. Past the park where I'd celebrated alone when the acquisition was finalized because I had no one else to tell. My phone had been off for 3 days. When I finally turned it on at the airport, I had 247 missed calls and 89 text messages. I deleted them all without reading. Except one. A voicemail from my mother. Emma, I don't know what to say. Veronica told us you paid off the house. All of it. After how we. I'm so ashamed. You were never too poor to be family, sweetheart. We were too poor in spirit to see who you really were. I love you. Please call me. I listened to it twice, then deleted it too. As I boarded the plane to San Francisco, I thought about that Christmas dinner. About the gravy boat shattering on the floor. About the laughter that had followed Veronica's pronouncement. About the silence that had followed Richard's call. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I hadn't wanted revenge. I'd wanted recognition. Respect. The basic dignity of being seen for who I was, not who they assumed me to be. Instead, I'd gotten something better, freedom. Freedom from their opinions, their judgments, their limiting beliefs about what success looked like. The mortgage payment was my parting gift. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. I'd always known I was more than they saw. Now I no longer needed them to see it too. As the plane lifted off, San Francisco waiting in the distance, I smiled. Somewhere below, my family was living in a house I'd bought with money they didn't know I had, grappling with a success they couldn't understand. And I was finally truly free. Too poor to be family? No. Too rich in spirit to stay.